Hello somebodies, Mr. Mafuchi here. Thank you for stopping on the channel. Well, things happen while you were living your best life. What kind of things? Well, let's get it going. April Fool's joke gets a man's forehead tattooed. In Pampanga, Philippines, a local snack store, Taragis, posted on their social media, "Hey, let's celebrate this glorious day. The first person to get our logo tattooed on their forehead wins 100,000 Philippine pesos, which is almost the equivalent of $1,800 US. Well, you know, with any type of challenge, it only takes one. And one indeed accepted the challenge. The man was so dedicated on taking on the task that on his social media, he posted photos with the tattoo artist, letting the company Taragis know that the process is underway. Well, once the company caught wind of this man and his actions, they kind of freaked out and took to social media and said, hey, no, it's just an April Fool's joke. Don't accept the challenge. But it was too little too late, as by that time, the man had fully tattooed the logo on his forehead. So, a couple of things going on here, somebodies. Number one, news broke out of this quote-unquote joke with the people in the city, and quite frankly, they flat out just said, you can absolutely not rely on people knowing the Western customs and what April Fools entails, because it seems that a good portion of the population had no idea what April Fools is. Secondly, with inflation so high in the Philippines, people are jumping at the opportunity for any money-making situation. So of course, if you're going to announce a money challenge, someone is going to be crazy enough to take it, because hey, it's tough times right now. Now, of course, in reality, things tend to get predictable. So here we go. Taragis released a statement saying it was simply an April Fool's joke. So for some of you that followed through, hey, you just learned the life lesson that on this day, you can't trust anything or anyone. We as a company are not in control of people's actions. Therefore, we accept no responsibility for what did or did not occur on this day. So once again, leave it to the big company to try to weasel their way out. But the majority of the population is not going to let them get away with it so easily, as the people in the community will push to have Taragis not only be liable for their silly Western joke, but also demand some kind of payout for the poor person that now has to carry the logo on their forehead. Now, it seems in the States, this situation would ultimately end up as a messy lawsuit. Ex-husband demands ex-wife to change back to maiden name. Now, we know the progression of a relationship and how it ends up. I know for the most of you, you think, oh, you end up married and you live happily ever after. No, I'm not talking about that path. I'm talking about the unfortunate other common path. You marry a person, things happen in between, and then unfortunately you split. Well, in this situation, the wife has lived with her surname for so long that upon signing the divorce papers, there was a clause which stated that if the wife ever wanted to change back to her maiden name, it would essentially be when she's ready. Now, in this case, people move on, and in this scenario, ex-hubby did get past the divorce and started dating. Now his girlfriend has become a fiancé. So hey, no problem, people move on, right? Well, here's the issue. Fiancé is not comfortable sharing the same name as the ex-wife. So with that said, like most of us men, we see an issue, we attack it, and we try to solve it. But this time it will not be so easy, because ex-hubby essentially went to the ex-wife and pretty much just demanded to have her change back to her maiden name, because fiancé is not comfortable with it. Well, ex-wife reminded him that there is paperwork, and I will change it when I damn well please. Now let me just point out, the main reason she even hesitates to go back to her maiden name is because she wants to have the same name as her children. So because of her stance, ex-hubby has no choice but to continue to escalate the situation and have to constantly remind her, change her name. I have a fiance in my life now, and she's gonna take my name. There's no reason for you to have my name. Now, after so many times with the ex-husband, with the daily reminder, ex-wife finally said, okay, I'll change my name, but along with me, the kids change their names as well. Well, you best believe ex-husband was not having that, because he takes pride and enjoys his kids having his name. So as of right now, there's no deal, and ex-wife continues to have the surname. Scientists tossed numerous coins to disprove the 50-50 odds. Researchers took 46 different types of coins and decided today how accurate is the term 50-50. Well, scientists decided to double down on this theory as 48 researchers coin tossed 350,757 times. So essentially, what did the research prove? Well, with any research, the scientists came up with a model, the Diaconus model, which means essentially a coin when flipped is more than likely to land in the same face that it started on. So if you're about to flip it and it's on tails, more than likely it's going to land on tails, and vice versa. Flipping the coin so many times, at the end of the day, the odds were proven wrong. Or were they? After so many coin tosses, it turns out that the odds have now come to a whopping 50.8. Now somebody, this lets me know, number one, this is what scientists do on a slow day. Why don't we just round it up to 51 so they can have a moral victory? I'll tell you what, this kind of amps me up to do a little bit of research. Check this out. Now in the dark, I theorize that by the third pass, coitus will begin. Bananas go brown because you store them wrong. Now we all go to the grocery store, and when we get to the bananas, we see them nice and yellow, like, oh, those are nice. Let me get a bunch. I may even want them a little green so they can last a little longer. But we all know what happens with that mentality, as no matter what you do, they tend to get brown a lot sooner than you expected. And then as they get brown, you know what you say, oh, well, I'll just put it aside and make some banana bread. But ultimately, they get tossed because we're just so lazy that we never get to the banana bread. We just want to grab a banana, peel it, and eat it. But we're not going to do it if it's brown. So what are we to do? Well, believe it or not, banana expert Linda Loosely, yes, there is such a thing as a banana expert, has shared some tips on how to keep your bananas nice and yellow. So let's get into the science of a banana. What we don't know is that the bananas release a growth hormone called ethylene. What does this do? Well, ethylene is the gas that helps the fruit grow. But on the other edge of the sword, it is also the gas that begins the ripening process. Not to mention that if you are putting bananas and mixing them with other fruits, you are in a world of hurt because that ethylene is also affecting the other fruits and ripening them quicker. Not to mention that if you keep the bunch together and only break them apart as you grab and go to eat them, you're not doing yourself any favors because the ethylene is still being released and they're still ripening. They're going brown. So what are we to do? Now listen up, somebodies, because here's an answer. We need to break apart the bunch of bananas. Number one. Number two, we need to wrap the stems in plastic so the ethylene gets trapped in there. Therefore, it will not ripen the banana anymore. It will not ripen the fruits that you mingled with it. That's what needs to be done. And if you do so, if you wrap the stems, guess what? You have a high likelihood of your bananas staying nice and ripe for 2 weeks. Isn't that amazing? If you simply wrap your banana in plastic, you can dream about the day within those 2 weeks of grabbing that banana and it's still being in great condition so you can peel it and open it and take a nice bite. Police confused cat photo for a mountain lion. In San Francisco, California, a Ring camera happened to take a photo of what initially seemed to be a mountain lion walking the fence. Now, of course, a wildlife animal like this needs to be reported because we can't have them walking the fence, let alone just walking around freely. So police come by the area, shut down the streets, as essentially they have to go looking for this mountain lion. Now, I'm not sure if this is part of the police's job description, but hey, so be it. So they scour the area, looking around. They're really determined to try to find this mountain lion, make sure it doesn't hurt anyone. But alas, to no avail, they're not able to find this lion. Well, police decided to take another good look at this photo, and as it turns out, it's just a big cat walking the fence. Nonetheless, it didn't stop the police from prompting them to provide safety tips on what to do if you encounter a wildlife animal. Essentially, number one thing, stay away. Now, I don't have a Ring camera, but if one of the things it does is enhance a photo, then I can only imagine what else has been reported. Did somebody report a mouse as a possum? An earthworm to a big boa constrictor? At the end of the day, somebody's, the large domestic cat ended up being a big pup. Parents keep inviting ex-husband to dinner unannounced. Now somebody's, let's go through the process of a relationship. Woman meets man, woman dates man, woman loves man, woman introduces man to the parents. Now we all know this is the part where it can end up being a crapshoot, but when it works, it's kismet. And that's exactly what happened in this situation, as the parents completely approve of the boyfriend. Therefore, you can graduate to the final step, which is marriage, happily ever after. But no, not happening again. We're going the other way, as the couple get a divorce. Now, ex-wife mentions that she just needed to break away because ex-hubby tends to be pushy and selfish. Now, 10 years have passed, and the parents still keep continuing to invite him over. And as dinner commences, mom usually tends to bring up the passion she has for wanting to be a grandma. Parents love the ex-hubby so much so that when the daughter brought over a new boyfriend, parents couldn't help themselves, as they just had to compare him negatively to the ex-hubby. Well, that dinner did not go well, and the daughter finally finally realized that unfortunately she's gonna have to keep her love life private because the parents have too much of a hang up with this man over there. And the daughter has mentioned so many times it's just not gonna happen. Leave it alone. You guys can hang out with him all you want, but keep me out of it. Now some quick details about this ex-hubby. He's already on his 3rd divorce. And it turns out that when he's single, he just happens to slide over to her and yeah, try to rekindle that flame. So with that said, I'm pretty sure the daughter made the right decision. If somebody's let me know, have you been in a similar situation? Surgeons pull out a 12-inch live eel out of a man's stomach. In Quang Ninh province, Vietnam, a man was admitted in hospital for severe cramps. As they saw the man writhing in pain, they quickly took him to get x-rays along with an ultrasound, and both showed a foreign body in the stomach. Surgeons discovered that there's a live eel right in there. So they acted fast and got him in ASAP. They had to get that thing out of there, and they did. So the surgery was a success, as the surgeons did remove the live eel. Again, live eel. Now I know you somebody's are asking, how did the eel get in there? Well, the surgeons have a theory about that. So the eel went in through the anus, slid up the colon, bit through the intestine, and entered the abdomen. Now surgeons also claim that this was a determined eel because it had to get through all that fecal matter packed in there. Not since Lemmywinks have I seen a creature so determined to get up in you. Former Jacksonville Jaguars employee steals $22 million. In Jacksonville, Florida, Amit Patel, a former financial planning manager, siphoned money from September 2019 to February 2023. He was the sole administrator of the virtual credit card system, which means it's like a credit card, but you don't need the physical card. And he was the only one in charge. And that he did, as he took up an extravagant lifestyle, which consisted of private travel and accommodations for himself, cryptocurrency, a luxurious condo, a Tesla, not to mention sporting tickets. But the majority of the money went to his gambling debt. And that's essentially where he got himself in trouble. Now the losses caught up to him, and at some point in the Jaguars organization, somebody finally had to put 2 and 2 together, and they did. So Patel was finally arrested and caught, and he pled guilty. But now, how could such a thing happen? How can one person be in such a position on his own? Well, it turns out at the time the financial department was understaffed. They had just changed into the virtual card system, and there were no safeguards. And it turns out Patel wasn't somewhat of a genius. He was just the person in the right place at the right time. But unfortunately, it seems like the rest of Patel's days will be behind bars. Now, Patel has been charged and sentenced to 78 months in a federal prison for financial crime and can add 30 years more breaking the law. Not to mention, he has to pay back $21 million. Now, how does someone pay back an exorbitant amount of money while in prison? I mean, I don't know how much a day's work in prison pays you nowadays, but I'm pretty sure it does not come close to millions of dollars. Now, Patel is deeply remorseful and apologizes for his conduct. But quite frankly, isn't that what all of them say when they're caught? A group of middle schoolers leave school function and walk home. In Southern California, 4 12-year-olds attended an after-school function, which had a couple of blow-up jumpers and arcades. Fun. But it turns out it wasn't exciting enough for these 4 preteens, so they huddled together and came up with a plan. How about we all just go to so-and-so's house and have a good time over there? Well, here's the issue with that plan, as when you leave the function, you have to go through a specific area, so you're acknowledged, and then you have to wait for somebody, whether it's a parent or an authorized adult, to pick you up. Well, it turns out in this situation, the group knew a secret place where they could sneak out, and that's exactly what they did. They snuck out and walked 2.5 miles to the preteen's home. Now, fortunately, in this scenario, they all did get to the home safely. So now let's get the ball rolling, as one of the parents is just hanging out at home, and then she receives a text from one of the moms. And the mom lets her know, hey, I don't know if you know this or not, but the kids are here at the house. Well, how would the mom know that? Because she's under the mindset that her son is at school at a function. But nonetheless, thank you for informing me. Now, the mom, being speechless and not knowing how to react, lets her husband know of what's going on. And the husband is known to be the heavy when it's absolutely necessary, and this is the time. So husband gets in his car and goes to pick up his preteen son. But here's the shocking part. As dad pulls up to the house, all the other parents are there to also pick up their children, but they're all laughing and having a good time like there was no wrongdoing. So this essentially just baffles the dad, but he needs to keep his cool in front of the people for the time being. Once he gets his son in the car, he just lets him know, not a word until we get home, and we discuss this along with your mom. So essentially, the dad and son get home, home, mom joins them, and the parents read the son the riot act. In other words, they start telling him what a horrible decision it was for him to join the other kids in their plot. So that preteen incurred the consequences of grounding, and that's that. But here's my real question, somebodies. Like I said, the dad approached the house, and everybody else, the parents and the kids, are having a good time. Like, this wasn't a big deal at all. Like, nothing bad could have happened with a group of kids just walking home. So for me, it just begs the question, have times really changed that much to where certain circumstances are no longer such a big issue anymore? Was it the simple fact that the parents were just grateful that the kids were okay? Because ultimately, it turns out it was only that one son that incurred any backlash by his parents. All the other kids just simply have another story to tell in their life. In fact, one of the kids wants to do it again. So somebody's, I really need to know. How would you handle this situation? Is it no big thing? Just be glad the kids are alright? Or are you taking your preteen aside and letting them know right from wrong and really delving into the consequences of their action? Ultimately, just to open their eyes and realize that sometimes the popular vote is not always the right vote for everybody. Because I'll tell you right now, when this scenario happens, I am the heavy.